Welcome to this waste webinar, everybody, hosted by Let's Go Zero. We are going to be covering an introduction to Let's Go Zero and having a look at government policies as well that are relevant. And then we're going to be sharing lots of ideas and tricks and tips on how to make improvements to your reuse and recycling in school. After the presentations, we're going to go into breakout rooms and you'll have a chance to ask questions there and share experiences as well. But please do ask questions as we go along in the chat as we go through the presentations. So my name is Cindy Blunt. I'm a Climate Action Advisor for Let's Go Zero. I'll start off the presentations and then hand over to my colleague Melanie Parr, who'll give you a quick wave. Mel, give a wave, and who's also a Climate Action Advisor. And then we've both worked in waste management before we started with Let's Go Zero. And finally, we're very pleased to welcome our final speaker, Helena Jackson, who's there and is going to talk to you about her experiences working in waste management. She currently works as Waste Prevention Manager for the East London Waste Authority and has a wealth of waste knowledge. So do pick her brains while she's here. Today's session is being recorded and it will be available on YouTube afterwards. The breakout room section won't be recorded, so please do speak freely. And the slides will be circulated to you all after the session, but we'll be sharing some of the links as we go along. So Let's Go Zero is a campaign that started a few years ago to network and support schools, colleges and nurseries in the transition to zero carbon. And if you haven't already, then please do sign your school up and join the other 8,000 settings across the UK who have signed up. By signing your school up, it doesn't commit you to anything, but it does really help us and it supports our policy and campaigning work to get the right support in place for schools and colleges and nurseries to transition to zero carbon. It also links you in with a lot of useful information about funding, competitions and webinars and things. We have a coalition of fantastic partners and sister organisations who offer a wide range of services and resources to schools to support their work in that transition to zero carbon. One Let's Go Zero initiative I'd just like to raise with you is open at the moment, and that's the OVO Foundation Nature Prize. The link is in the chat. That's open for entries at the moment from now until the 17th of November. And there are 30 opportunities to win £500 for a nature-based project within your school. And also, just to let you know, in case you don't already, this is one of several webinars that we're hosting across the academic year, covering all aspects of the Climate Action Plan. So those group of people waving at you from the bottom of the slide there, that's the other 32 advisors, climate action advisors, who are based around the country. And our job is to help schools develop and implement climate action plans. Our work supports schools to meet the requirements of the DfE sustainability strategy, and that asks schools to have a sustainability lead and a climate action plan in place by the end of this year. And if you haven't made a start on yours yet and you'd like some support, you can register for a climate action advisor. I think again a link will probably go in the chat. It's a free service and available to all educational settings across England. So the strategy asks climate action plans, or CAPs as we tend to refer to them, to cover 4 key areas that are highlighted on this slide. So the first is decarbonisation. So that's looking at ways and actions and things that you can do to reduce emissions across your buildings, your energy use, your transport, food and procurement, and of course waste, which we're going to come to in a moment. Also adaptation and resilience. So what actions can you do at school to ensure that your school is resilient to the changing climate? So chiefly looking at flooding and overheating. The third is biodiversity, so thinking about improving your school grounds for nature and also creating more opportunities for pupils to connect with nature. And if you haven't registered with the National Education Nature Part yet, or if you're not aware of it, do have a look at it. It's a fantastic resource with lots of curriculum linked resources there for all age groups. And finally, climate education and green careers. So making sure that we're equipping our young people with the necessary knowledge and skills to take forward. And moving on to waste, I want to introduce you to, if you're not already familiar with, the simpler recycling legislation, which went into force in April of this year. It outlines changes to workplace recycling. It requires workplaces, including education places of work to ensure that they're separating food waste and mixed dry recycling from general waste. So whilst 80% of school waste is recyclable, only on average 20% is actually recycled at the moment. So there's a lot of room for improvement and progress. And as well, increasing recycling and reducing general waste can save you money as well as improving your environmental performance. It's part of a longer term plan to make waste collections consistent, so people will find it easier to recycle correctly, whether they're at home or at school or at work. It's important to check with your waste collector how they collect their dry mix recycling. So some commingle everything into one bin, and so that only one recycling bin is needed within the rooms of your school. But some collect paper and cards separately, so a further bin might be required to collect that material separately. And that is the ideal, really, because collecting it separately means it's in good condition when it reaches the processor. So that's the best way for that to be collected, if possible. So it's a time for a quiz, and there's going to be a poll in coming up in a moment. And the question is, so get your thinking caps on, what percentage of global greenhouse gas emissions relate to food waste, do you think? So do you think it's A, 1 to 2%, B, 3 to 5%, C, 8 to 10%, or D, 15 to 20%? And I can't see the poll now, so I don't know what I've done there. Mel, if you can chip in, as people stopped, people been voting on that one. Don't know where it's gone on my screen.
Yeah, let me just, it's just loading any results for me. Here we go. Oh, okay, so around a third of people have said 3 to 5. Oh no, it's just changed. We have the majority saying 57%. Of people have said 8 to 10%.
And that is correct. So very well done there. It's 5 times more than aviation. And the UK is the largest producer of food waste in Europe. But the UK government has set targets to reduce that food waste by 20% by 2025. And WRAP, who is an organisation that does a lot of work around waste, are wanting to get that to 50% by 2030. So lots of work to do there. Second question and quiz here is on waste facts. So what percentage of UK local authority collected waste is sent to landfill? So if you want to put your guess in the chat now, is it A, 5.5%? Is it 7.5%, 55%, or 75%? So we've got a good split at the moment, actually quite a variety. So some people think it's 75. Got 9 responses so far. Does anybody else want to have a guess?
So if anyone can't do the poll, if you want to add A to D in the chat.
Brill, thanks, Mel. So the answer is actually possibly lower than you thought. It's 5.5%. And this is a really interesting thing to raise, because a lot of people do think that a lot or most general waste is sent to landfill, but in fact it's not. And there are landfill taxes which are very high, and many local authority contracts are now designed to incentivise a reduction in waste to landfill. So it's good to know that, I think. Around 50% of local authority collected waste is sent for incineration. That's where the majority of your waste, I think, will probably go from school. And around just over 40% is recycled. So welcome to the glamorous world of bins. Mel and I love chatting rubbish, and we do it regularly. We love waste and bins. And just want to introduce you to the idea of carrying out a bin audit to understand what systems you have in place for your waste and recycling. It's a really key starting point for making improvements, and it's not quite as onerous as it sounds. So you've got key staff that could do this, but actually your eco club can also go around each room and check for the following things. So have you got the right bins in place? If food is consumed or produced in a room, there needs to be a food waste bin within that room. And we would say as well, check the position of the bins. You should have your recycling bin, your general waste bin, and your food waste bin together, so that at the point and that moment when somebody's about to throw an apple core away, they can see very clearly which bin it should go in. Because if you don't have a food waste bin there, it will end up in your general waste or your recycling. And also making sure that it's at a sort of sensible point in the room where it can be seen, the bins can be seen quite easily. Thirdly, looking at labelling, so making it very clear what should and shouldn't go into each bin. And you can sort of back this up with any posters or promotions that you do around school as well. The fourth one we've put there is colour coding. So this is again another visual clue, making it really easy for people to get the right stuff in the right bin. And you can see that we've got on this slide the sort of the wrap icons there with the different pictures there, which I think we're all quite familiar with, and it's really good to kind of follow that colour coding, so it makes it easier for people. Fifth is have a look inside the bin. Are the right materials in there? And if they're not, then you've got some work to do there. And the last one is just looking at the size of your bins. So you're aiming for your general waste bin and your recycling bins to be about the same size, or even for your recycling bins to be a bit larger. And we've put there about communications at the bottom there in yellow, because it is really important to let people across the school know what you're doing and why you're doing it. But Mel's going to cover that a little bit later on. So carrying on with your bin audit, we're going to go outside to the bins, preferably the night before collection. And we would recommend that you do this sort of for a few weeks, really, because you get a real clear picture then of what's going on. So again, making note of the following: how many bins have you got of each type and what size are they? Are these bins clearly labelled? And obviously that's for your site team or your cleaning team to make sure that they are putting the right stuff in the right bin. Have another look inside, and again, talk to your cleaning team or your site team if you're finding that the wrong stuff is in the wrong bin. Are any of the bins overflowing, or are some of them empty? And this is why it's very important to check over a few weeks, because if you've got bins that are consistently overflowing, then obviously you know something's not right. But in terms of money and saving money, if you've consistently got bins that are half empty, then really you're paying for fresh air, because you're paying for most contracts are set up that you will pay per lift rather than per how much the weight or the volume of the waste within those bins. So really important to sort of note that down and get a good idea about it. And then now you've got all that information together, it's a good time to talk to your waste contractor. And if you don't already know, check if any recyclable materials need to be collected separately, and adjust your internal bins to reflect that. You can discuss with them what collection changes you might need to be making. So do you need more or fewer bins? Do you need different size bins? Or maybe you could look at changing the frequency of collections. And then, of course, those changes are going to affect what you pay for them. So it's much more expensive to have it is more expensive to have general waste collected than recycling generally. So it's very likely that you can save money in the longer term by increasing your recycling. And also ask what additional support they might be able to offer. So local councils and private waste management companies often have a social value aspect in their clause, which means that they may be able to supply you with possibly free bins for your classrooms, or they might be able to provide services like educational talks or workshops in your school, or they might be able to arrange a visit to a local sorting plant. So lots of other added value that you can potentially get from them. And now that you've got all this wonderful information, it's a really good time to check with other local waste collectors as well to see if you can get cheaper rates or a better package. So I've repeated the wrap sort of symbol there on each of those slides, and it's not just because I'm totally unimaginative. It also demonstrates that kind of, the regular, the more you see those icons and those colours, the more it sort of sinks in and helps people to quickly recognise what goes into which bin. So just a quick case study here of a school that ran a house recycling competition, and they very quickly reduced their general waste. So they had a bin for that you can see there for each of the houses within the school. They put them on the playground, and at the end of each week, the house that had the most recycling in their bin won house points. So they launched it in January of this year, and by February half term, they'd halved their general waste. So a really nice example of how you can very quickly change behaviour and improve your recycling. So looking at additional recycling schemes, possibly you're already doing some of these, but there's lots of other things that you can recycle at school. So textiles, ink and toner cartridges, for example, and pens. And a lot of schools collect batteries as well, but you can often raise some money by doing this, or get some useful items or possibly books. And there's going to be some links either in the chat or following on after this presentation, so you can have a look at some of those. And one example which doesn't earn you anything, but it doesn't cost anything either, and that's the Edding Pens return box. So you can, any empty or markers of any type or any brand can go into that box, and you can send it back to them. And of course, that's helping to reduce your general waste as well. Or if you want to earn some extra money, then Empties Please specialise in recycling used ink cartridges. So they'll collect your used toner and printer cartridges and donate the money straight back to your school. So quite a nice one there if you want to earn a bit of extra cash. I have got a video, but I'm going to leave it, but you'll get the link for that because we're just going to run over time. So I'm going to hand you over to Mel now.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that, Cindy. So I'm now going to talk about the waste hierarchy. Obviously Cindy's given a really fantastic overview there of the importance of recycling, and obviously the legislation around that schools do need to be doing this now. So getting recycling right is definitely the first step. But once you've got that right, we want to make sure that we're then not stopping there, because there is so much else to do. Recycling is literally just one part of the waste hierarchy. So many of you will probably have heard of the term reduce, reuse, recycle, but we can extend this to reduce, reuse, repair, recycle, recover, and dispose. So we want to be taking actions within schools because we have such a unique opportunity, using them as workplaces and hubs with lots of people in them, but also recognizing that they can impact the wider community as well by encouraging and enabling change. So for my section today, I'm just going to be discussing some of those examples of what you can do internally and also influence externally as well. So Cindy mentioned earlier the importance of education when making changes to any of your sort of bin infrastructure, whether that's internal or external, making sure that everyone is updated with whatever those changes are. So you can do this in a variety of different ways, through assemblies, poster making, having external speakers. There's a picture of me here where I used to do a recycling relay where you empty bags of rubbish on the floor and have 2 lines of pupils all sort of rushing to sort their waste correctly first, which can be quite fun at getting everyone involved and pointing out like, no, that's soft plastic. So that can be fun. I've linked there to a few videos just as examples of ones where I think it's really important to show videos that show processes that you might not be able to see. So for example, this "Where Does Your Rubbish Go" shows the hand processing line of people having to actually sort through rubbish to make sure that things are separated properly. Sort of showing that and really emphasising the point that this does need to happen, that you're not just throwing waste away and then it's nothing else happens with it. It's important to understand. And then there's quite a popular video. It's only 2 minutes long. It's called "The Story of a Spoon," and I think it's really impactful for showing just as a reminder that plastic spoons are just, they're made from dinosaurs essentially, and it kind of shows that whole process of that, and is it worth it compared to using a reusable. So with that in mind, I'm just going to quickly show this video, which is a summary. So I feel that that's a very impactful video for really highlighting what's become a bit normalized with throwaway culture in today's society, especially for larger places like secondary schools that have ended up relying on that grab and go culture and that disposables. So that video really highlights that just because something's perhaps paper packaging and labeled as compostable, for example, doesn't mean that it's okay to use that rather than reusables. And we understand that obviously that's not always possible, but anything where we can really investigate where we can be reducing single use and introducing reusables is really important. So running campaigns within your school and getting pupils on board with that is a fantastic action to take to get people excited and motivated. There are two big examples, Plastic-Free Schools and Kids Against Plastic. Both have resources and campaigns that you can get involved with. Another example of a school that's done this internally themselves is Bishop's Hatfield School, where they ask their teachers during form time to get their pupils to waive their reusable drinks bottles, and anyone who has one gets a house point, and that in itself has also created the change. So these other ways that you can be looking at this, so transitioning to reusable plates, cutlery, cups, beakers and Tupperware throughout your site. So you can be doing this by providing reusable items yourself, and that might even save you some money. So you could carry out a cost analysis by looking at the cost of buying reusables versus disposables, as well as the disposal costs. So I think that will shock you if you start working out how much the additional bin costs are as well once you get that information from your waste contractor, as Cindy touched on earlier. You can incentivize pupils to bring in reusables through discounts, rewards and initiatives. And another aspect we see is ensuring that there's enough areas for people to actually sit and enjoy lunch, because it's quite surprising if you don't provide that, then people are almost forced to have a grab and go attitude. So that can really change behaviour that way. And then also encouraging zero waste lunchboxes as well. There's ways that you can look to reduce the waste from single-use drinks. So 3 big actions that schools can take to provide sufficient, clean and working water fountains. If you're a nursery or a primary school that's providing free milk, then switching from disposable milk cartons to a bulk milk provider is a really fantastic change. And if you're a secondary or a college school, that is providing water and juice bottles as single use, then being able to provide a dispenser, so whether that's a slushy dispenser or a juice dispenser, can be a fantastic way to reduce packaging. Generation Juice are a brilliant organisation that do lots of school compliant drinks, so they're one of the ones we've got featured there, but there's a few different ones on the market. And there's also some campaigns around water only schools as well. So if you wanted to be very bold, you could look at that, and there's some toolkits for moving towards that because of the health benefits around dissociating from as much sugar as well. In terms of external initiatives, you could do things like encourage reusable party kits. So there is a party kit network, so you could just tap into one locally or set one up, which is what Bridgewater Primary School have done. And there's also Eco Refill, which is a fantastic initiative where pupils get to run their own stalls for the wider community and use the profit to keep running that mini business. So they can sell things like washing up liquid, hand wash and body wash. And it's a really fantastic way of engaging pupils in the excitement of reusables. And then having procedures to look at what happens at the end of the school year when we see a lot of waste, when people are clearing out classrooms, and quite often schools hire skips and a lot just gets thrown away. So really looking at what procedures you could be putting in place to prevent that as well. Paper, obviously we understand that paper, schools use a lot of paper. 414 million tonnes is used annually, which is equivalent to around 4 billion trees. It's estimated that a school is estimated to use 350,000 to 1 million sheets of paper a year, and around 2/3 of that waste could be avoided. So there's a few different ways that you could look to monitor paper use and take steps to reduce consumption. So looking at printing, making sure that you're always double-sided, and essentially using the tracked printing to release fobbed printing that way is a very beneficial way that have seen results. Embracing digitalization, such as through communications, and then enabling and encouraging reuse as well. Another area is looking at sustainable procurement. So things like switching to bulk cleaning supplies, buying reading books that are secondhand, that can save a lot of money, and then also selecting items which are reusable as well. So for example, refillable glue sticks. Looking again at food waste, so we know that food waste is horrific for environmental impacts. So around 25 to 30% of food waste which is produced is wasted, which uses around 28% of the world's agricultural land. 60% of that food waste comes from households. So there's a really important shift that we need to be doing here in changing behaviours. In schools, an average school student wastes around 23% of the food served for lunch. So we really want to be looking to take action on reducing that, especially because it costs the education sector an estimated £250 million every year just to be throwing away that food. So one way that schools can act on this is to run a campaign to reduce plate waste from pupils. So by weighing the food waste and then reporting back to the caterers anything that could be changed, but also hosting assemblies to report on that food waste and asking people to be more mindful of what they're eating and wasting, can be really impactful. There's one example here of Margaret Wicks Primary School that did this. They weighed all the waste in the spring term, ran lots of assemblies and educational updates, like on their notice board and newsletters, and their food waste reduced by 40% by the next term, which I think is astounding, to embed those behaviours. So we've got another little quiz. So if you are having issues with the polls, please do just use the chat function. What percentage of global greenhouse gas emissions relate to the textile industry? I'll just give people a few seconds to do that. Few mixed responses there, lots of C's in the chat. So yes, well done. The answer is C, which is the same amount as the food waste earlier. So yeah, still bigger than the aviation. So it's really important that we tie in textiles and food. And then quiz number 2, what percentage of used clothes do you think are recycled into new clothes? 1%, 12%, 23%, or 48%? Mixed answers in the chat. We're seeing A's and B's. C. Okay, so I'll give one more second to people to respond. So yes, well done. There's lots of people that went for 1%, which is the correct answer, which is horrifying, but true. So some fast facts around textiles. So 100 billion new garments are produced annually. And in the UK, we buy more items of clothing per person than any other country in Europe, and rank 7th in the entire world for producing fashion waste. So there's lots of behavioural change that we can do here. And less than 1/5 of that used clothing is recycled in the UK. In schools, that looks like 1.4 million wearable school uniforms being thrown away. And there's a statistic that reusing school uniform for just an extra 3 months could reduce carbon, water and waste footprints by 5 to 10%. So a way that we can do that is by making sure that we're setting up a pre-loved uniform scheme. That can either be online or permanent, but if it is permanent, then it's in people's minds the whole time. So we really want this to be the first choice above buying new. And another way that you can help to reduce the emissions around textiles is reducing the logo use that's on your school items as well, so that people can be more enabled to buy secondhand and pass on secondhand, because once something has logos on, that's a barrier. One thing that we can do as schools is use our facilities to host community reuse and repair. And that could be through a variety of ways. So it could be permanent free book swap areas, or hosting events, hosting repair cafes. I'm going to stop talking about that because I know that Helen has got some wonderful things to say on this. So just to hand over to Helena and embarrass her quickly by congratulating her again on recently being named as RWN's 2025 Environmental 100 Women for all of her fantastic work on waste. I've worked with Helena for over 10 years, and I can just say what a brilliant font of knowledge she is. So yeah, passing with Helena. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. I wasn't expecting that. It was very nice to meet Michaela Strachan. So I work for the East London Waste Authority, and I'm just going to give you a very quick run through some of the engagement that we've had with schools and some of the wider projects that we're working on. So East of London, we have 4 borough councils that we work with. They collect the waste from households and then we dispose of it. We also run 4 recycling and reuse centres, which is at the dump, and we have a waste prevention team, which I manage. So we've got, quite a lot of residents. So it's a very big job, but we do quite a lot of work with school. We have a dedicated waste engagement member of staff who comes in and does things like this. So gadget repair workshops. We engage with a group called Team Repair who provide the kits for us. We buy in the kits, and then our education officer goes in and helps teach the students how to do simple repairs. It's for things like games consoles, there's a torch, a handheld microscope, and then they can go out in the school gardens and find things to look at. It's a really nice way to introduce some basic repair within the STEM curriculum, and I've put a link there. You can order the kits yourself from Team Repair, or it might be that your council will work with them as well. Sticking with repair, Mel mentioned repair cafes. We've been running repair cafes across East London for 5 years now, and it's lovely when we get children coming along. We try to advertise them with local schools so that they know what's coming up in their area, and it's a lot more visible now. We're getting a lot more repair cafes that are springing up all over the place. It tends to be either via the Restart project, which is the guys that we use to provide the fixtures, or Repair Cafe. So either or, you can have a look and see if there is one near to you. The fixers are often very engaging. They tend to sit with people and show them how to fix. So it's kind of then empowering that learning as well. Small electricals, bikes and clothing are the main things you see there. And then sticking with small electricals, we got some funding from Material Focus, who run Recycle Your Electricals. You may have seen HypnoCat, the big blue and pink cat. And we were able to put our pink bins in schools so that families could then bring in any small electricals that are no longer working to be recycled. This was a funded project, but you can definitely look at Recycle Your Electricals online and find out where your nearest collection point is. And then you can use that as a talking point for the resource use, sort of extraction process, the reuse of precious metals, lots of really important learning points there. Now, you saw slides from Mel talking about the impact of textiles, and school uniforms are a really big part of that. The School Uniform Reuse Network is a new initiative that we are partnering with. There's about 2/3 of the boroughs across London are going to be joining it. And it's a sort of a toolkit and a guide to how to set up uniform reuse within your school, whether that is to swap or to sell, with all sorts of different examples on how you can do that so that it makes it work for your school. And then we've got sort of the back end of the system will give you statistics on tonnage savings, water savings, carbon savings, so that you can then report on that and share that with sort of maybe school governors or your families. It's not yet launched. We're looking to launch early in the new year, so do keep an eye out for that. It's primarily for London, but once it's set up, any school within the country is very welcome to join. There are existing apps and web pages already. There's a couple listed there, and there's a few guides out there if you want to set your own up and you're not quite sure how. Reusable nappies, obviously only relevant to those who have the younger members within their classrooms, but staggeringly, nappies can make up around 8% of non-recyclable waste, whereas reusable nappies have a 25% lower carbon footprint. They really are pretty easy to use once you've got the hang of it. And as you can see here, the environmental impact is you're just not comparable. It has impacts on toilet training, as well as that staggering amount of waste it has created. Many councils have got a nappy incentive scheme, so you can ask your council if that is available. There's a link there which shows it's not necessarily up to date, but some of the councils that do, or there are some national incentive schemes. And there is we're beginning to see some links with nurseries and laundry services so that the families themselves don't have to do the washing if that is a barrier. So that's something that's beginning to come in. There are also lots and lots of nappy libraries around the country who are kind of the experts, often volunteer led, that they will be able to give you some insight into which nappies you might need, how many, and how to use them. Linked to that is reusable period products. There are 28,000 tonnes of single-use products binned or flushed each year. Last month was Unblocktober, which is a campaign to try and keep items out. This is not being flushed or put down the sink. It's something that we don't often talk about. It's kind of hidden waste. There's a lot of plastic in there, but actually reusable items, whether they're pads, pants or cups, are incredibly comfortable, very easy to use, and just need to be spoken about more. So the Women's Environmental Network, WEN, offer environmental education. We offer this within the schools within East London, and the feedback we've had so far is that actually it's really interesting. You can see a picture there of the kit, so you can actually have the items to feel and pass around within the classes when you're teaching about menstruation in schools. There's lots and lots of different groups that are really pushing this now, so have a look at some of those links there. You can also get government funding to buy reusables. Most schools will use their funding to buy single-use disposable items, but if you wanted to, then that option is also available, as well as discounts being available with lots of different companies. And then finally, I just wanted to highlight some of the national focus dates that you can engage with. I put a few of the icons there, but if you go to Moral Fibre's webpage, they've got a really good sort of cohesive list of most of the major days. This is obviously waste focus, there are lots there, but they have all sorts on nature conservation, energy saving and the like. So if you wanted to pick or sort of share information with your students and didn't really know where to start, then for example, Plastic Free July is a really good idea. Reusable Nappy Week, that's in March, Unblocktober, as I've mentioned. And we have the Big Schools Birdwatch coming up, which is always a lovely one, not necessarily waste related though. So yeah, I do encourage you to have a look at that. And each of the different individual websites will have a lot more information and often have resources as well. And I'll pass back over to Mel.
Lovely, thank you so much, Helena. So now we're going to be going into breakout rooms. So we'll have around 15 minutes. So it's an opportunity to hand over to you guys really and hear what questions you might have, what examples you might have. We've got a few prompts there. That'll be sort of pasted into the chat when we join the rooms. So we want to see what work you're already doing, who you might already be working alongside, any lessons learned and successes or any challenges, and also what actions you are inspired to do next. I believe those rooms will be allocated and we'll start moving into them shortly. So I'll just wait for some magic to happen. Welcome back, everyone. I'm just bringing the slides back up. If they're loading, here we go. Let me whiz back through. So I hope that you found all of that useful to go through. What I would love to hear now, if you'd be able to pop in the chat, which actions that you're planning to take after today's session. There was some really fantastic discussion in the breakout room that I was in, where we were hearing about sort of especially the value of bringing the community on board and those sorts of initiatives. So lots of really fun things that I'm excited to hear how people get on. Cindy, did you want to say how your breakout room went?
Yeah, thanks, Mel. So we had one discussion around a very small school that was struggling to find space at the front of the school to house or accommodate their bins. So that was something that we discussed and discussed some ideas around looking at other local organisations such as the community centre, and I know that Emma had done some of that, but we're still struggling with that aspect of waste management in a small school. So she's going to talk to her trust lead possibly about changing waste providers and seeing if they can come up with some other ideas. And then we also had the really great suggestion from another trust contact in the chat, who was saying that they have improved their recycling by changing bin bags, so using clear bin bags for recycling and bin liners, sorry, and black ones for general waste, and that has helped them to improve their dry mix recycling. So fantastic. And we've also had an award winner in our group, and if the award winner wants to just pop what they've put in our chat into the main chat so we can all see it, if you're not too shy, that would be amazing. Thanks, Mel.
Wonderful, thank you, Cindy. Yeah, perfect. So it sounds like lots of really valuable discussion there as well. So yeah, that's the final bit. So if there's any last minute questions or thoughts or anything else like that anyone would like to put in the chat, then please feel free. We'll be sticking around for the next few minutes, but if not, then just a huge thank you to everyone who came along. Thank you so much for Helena for your time and coming along and presenting and answering questions so nicely as well, and thank you to Cindy and our people working behind the scenes in supporting with all the tech as well. If once again, if you do want any additional support with setting up your climate action plans or anything like that in terms of sustainability, please just do reach out. We do give completely free support to schools. Yeah, we look forward to hearing from you. Yeah, I will stop there. Thank you so much, everyone.